I missed my daughter's first ultrasound to carry my grandfather's casket. My wife and I have been together for 7 years, and this pregnancy is the first time either of us has felt that specific kind of joy that reorganizes everything around it. We found out we were having a girl about a month ago, and something shifted in me that I hadn't anticipated. I started talking to her through my wife's stomach before bed every night, started thinking differently about the future, about what kind of father I wanted to be, about all of it. We had an appointment booked for a Wednesday morning. The big one, the detailed scan where you actually see something that looks like a person. My grandfather had been declining for a while, but the speed of it caught everyone off guard. One week he was slow but stable. The next, my father was calling me with that particular flatness in his voice that means he's holding himself together through sheer will. He told me it was close. We talked briefly about logistics, about what would happen when the time came. My wife and I discussed it that evening. She said she'd stay home. We had dogs to think about. I could drive up alone and be back within a day. It was a practical conversation. We didn't linger on it. He passed in the middle of the night. My father called just after dawn, and I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, listening to him try to sound steady. He asked if I would be a pallbearer. I said yes before he finished the sentence. Then he told me the service was Wednesday morning. I sat with that for a long moment. My wife had woken up and was watching me from the pillow. I told her. She went quiet in the way she does when she's processing something carefully before she speaks. Then she asked what I was going to do. I told her I needed to go, that my father needed me there, that I had already said yes to carrying the casket. She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just said, okay, in a tone that communicated everything she wasn't saying out loud. I suggested I could be on the phone during the scan, that she could hold it up so I could see. She looked at me for a long moment and then got up and went to the bathroom. I heard the shower. I texted my father and confirmed I was coming. The next day and a half was painful in a quiet way. She wasn't cruel about it, but she wasn't warm either. She made dinner and took it to another room. When I tried to talk about it again, she told me to do what I needed to do and left the conversation. I was on the road before 6 Wednesday morning, 4.5 hours of my own thoughts, which was not a comfortable experience. I kept rotating between grief for my grandfather and something harder to name, a sense that I was failing someone even while doing the right thing, or at least a right thing. The service was exactly what those mornings are. Quiet, heavy, everyone moving slowly and saying little. My father looked like he hadn't slept in days. My uncles stood around holding coffee they weren't drinking. We carried the casket, and I kept my eyes forward and my jaw set. My phone buzzed at 11:30 while we were at the cemetery. One image, no message attached, just the ultrasound photo. My daughter's profile, her nose, and her hands raised near her face like she was already thinking something over. I stood in that parking lot and looked at it while car doors closed around me and people moved toward their vehicles. My father appeared beside me. I turned the phone toward him without thinking. He looked at it and something in his face changed. A real smile, the first one I'd seen all day. Then he looked at me and said I had missed it. I said yes. He was quiet for a moment and then said I hadn't needed to come. I told him yes I had. He patted my arm and walked to his car. I drove home through the afternoon and got back after 7. She was on the sofa. I sat beside her and asked if I could see the photos. She handed me the full set without a word. There were 8 of them, different angles, different moments. One where she was yawning. Then I had to work hard to keep my voice even. Then my wife told me what it had been like to be in that room alone. How every other person there had their partner with them. How the technician had asked where I was and she'd had to explain. How she had smiled and said she was sorry and how that had somehow made it worse. I told her she wasn't an idiot. She told me she had needed me there. That this was something we couldn't go back to. That it wasn't about the logistics or who needed what. It was about the fact that we were becoming parents together and she had sat in that room alone for the most significant appointment of this pregnancy.